Okay, I'm at 520 Vineland Trail in Beavercreek, Ohio, doing a sanitary lateral inspection for the purchase of a home. We're looking for any structural issues, root intrusion, anything that would be of concern to the buyer. There is a pretty large tree off to the side of the front of the property, but a pretty small one nearest the line, but it could be pretty close. The line is the clean out. The access point is an outside clean out. I'll show you just to the right of the front door. You can see it's actually been kind of knocked over a little bit, probably years ago. You can see the top level is kind of pointing sideways. It's kind of hard to see from this angle, but it's kind of pointing a little sideways here instead of, the camera just not doing it justice. Instead of being straight up and down, because this would be straight up and down, it just got kind of shifted off to the side. Not a big deal, but it just kind of letting you know. And this is cast iron here, which means it's cast iron in the house. Cast iron is more susceptible to soft clogs. It is obviously cast iron, so it does rust, and so the interior of the inside part of the line tends to be rough, and so it's just something that I like to put in my little bit of information I like to put in there so that people realize you just want to make sure you're not flushing wet wipes and paper towels and stuff down the line, because it makes it more susceptible to those soft clogs in general, just because of the roughness of the line. The bad part about having these slab houses with the outside clean out is that there is no inside access to the line, and in most cases, as we go into the clean out, these have sweeps on it, and you can see as I'm facing down, you see how it's kind of cut out like a little half oval. And what that does is it actually forces the camera to go downstream only, and so we're not able to inspect the line on the inside of the house, because it basically has like a directional fitting that forces the camera to only go from this point out to the main in the street. And so there's probably roughly 15 to 20 feet of pipe on the inside where it comes from the bathroom and goes straight out to this point that is inaccessible due to lack of access. Meaning, basically what it sounds like, the only possible spot to access it would be from the roof, and obviously that is, if there is no other access, we would get okayed, but it is obviously, that's a whole other liability thing as far as me having to climb up on the roof to get access. But at any rate, there's no access short of pulling a toilet, and so we're unable to inspect the interior line between the toilets and this access point here just outside the front of the house to the right of the front door. Most issues we find are on the exterior, and there will be plenty of water run to test to make sure that the line is open and flowing. In fact, we will turn it on when we get out to the main, kind of watch how it reacts as we pull back. Now you can see the cast iron, which actually, if you're going off of what this looks like, this is really good. It shows that the line is holding shape. There's not a big area of washout or channeling on the bottom of the cast iron, and you can see as it gets out to the 4-inch clay line just past the clean out that it's about the same size and diameter. I didn't see a whole lot of buildup there, which is always a good sign. And this is what we were talking about. The most common thing we see in clay lines is root intrusion, and so you can see that it's probably not obstructing flow, but because of how low that is in the flow line, and here we are actually, this could be, I'll see if we can punch through it. I should be able to, but as close as this is to the house, this may be from these bushes, but you have that root intrusion immediately, and I'm able to poke a hole in it with my camera, but right here at 15 feet there's some pretty immediate root intrusion. There could have been an old tree up here closer, but this may be from these bushes here. The line is not very deep. And so the reason this happens is that when you have these clay lines, and you can see there's some more. And we'll be able to see better as we pull back, but there's a good deal of root intrusion here, and this is very, very normal. As far as it's very common to find this on clay lines because the sections are about 3 foot long, and so when we these short sections of pipe and a lot more connections, and what happens is when they put these in, they use like a mortar, you know, packed around the connections. They are large, like bell. One side is a bell, or a male or a female ends that go together. And there's a lot of play in them, and then they pack like a mortar around it to seal them. And then over the years, basically that kind of shrinks up a little bit, and it allows in those small, call them finger roots, because they're really small diameter roots. And as long as you take care of them, you know, they're fine. As long as you don't get them to where you let them grow into big, real thick roots, and they just get in, and they're like nothing more than to get into a sewer line, because you get, you know, water and fertilizer all in one place. And so we'll have to run some water here, or at least dip the camera in the main and try to rinse it off to see. And we could get past like this. You can see here's a joint that doesn't have any tree roots. But based off of the placement so far up close to the house, it could be the tree off to the front right side of the house. We're still within the drip edge of the tree, or within the edges of the branches, how far they come out. And that's usually about kind of a rule of thumb, that about 10 feet beyond that, beyond how far out the tree branches reach, is usually about how far out the roots go. But that can obviously vary based off of the type of tree and the situation. Drought can obviously cause them to go a little further if they find water. But it seems like once we got out past, I'd say roughly 35 to 40 feet, it seems like the roots have died down. So there could have been an old tree out here. It looks like there's evidence that there was a tree that had been taken down a few years ago. There's grass in its place. But at any rate, this will have to be cleaned. And in the future, you may have to, you just want to monitor it and possibly do some preventative maintenance on the line to be sure. And so I've made it all the way out to the main. I'm trying to rinse my camera off here, but it may not be enough liquid in the line to rinse it off, but there we go. Not getting a whole lot of flow because it's during work hours, and so there's not a whole lot of people home to be running a bunch of stuff to get the main full. So what I'm going to do, we can obviously see a lot better, but I'm going to run some water, and that way we can make sure that the camera lens gets rinsed off, and we can witness how it looks on the way back. Now in general, it seemed like obviously the view was obscured a little bit, but in general it seemed like the line was in good structural shape. It just letting roots in at those connections, which again is very normal. You would just need an initial cleaning now before taking occupancy to clean those roots out, and if done well, they may have to alter this clean out a little bit to get better access, but it may be fine. But as long as they can get a 4-inch double knife in there and get this cleaned out, and then beyond that you may want to add, do like a chemical treatment every year or so, which is just a chemical you dump down there yourself, called Root-X, or there's also similar chemicals that allow you to just basically, it keeps the roots from growing, and then maybe have another inspection done in 5 years or so, just to kind of check the root growth and see if the maintenance schedule needs to be adjusted. It could be from an old tree. A lot of times the rule of thumb is that the roots can grow for 5 years or more after the tree's gone, but again, depends on the type of tree, and you never really know. It's not something that's easy to monitor, I guess. But again, this will have to be cleaned, and I'll mention that. I'm sure I'll mention that again as we finish up the inspection. But as of right now, I'm going to pause the video. We're going to run some water and witness how it reacts and clean the lens off. Alright, so see the water coming out from behind us, coming out from behind the camera lens there. And so we'll run it out a little bit and make sure. So the water is making its way all the way down the line. And hopefully we'll be able to see that the water level won't be too high to cover up the lens at any point. Sometimes those roots will create a little bit of a backup there. But most of the root intrusion was up close to the house, so not a bad one. And so it's like I said, fairly normal, but most of the root intrusions you can see there, that seems pretty good. And about every 3 feet you'll see another seam. In some cases it may be 4. Some of the newer ones they had a little bit longer sections, but in most cases they're 3, sometimes they're 4. This off of the stuff right down the and now it looks like there is a clean out here. You can see the connection from above. I can try to mark that on there. In fact, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pause the video here, and I'm going to see where this is and see if there's a spot to access the light. Just nothing else to mark for the buyer. Okay, so I marked it. There's no visible access point. I mean, it could be where another line comes in. It could just have been there when they installed it, and it's just been covered over. But as I pull back, you'll see on the top of the line there's that little spot where there was an access at one point, about 41 feet. And so from here on in, I think this is where most of the root intrusion is. Obviously, the good thing is I was able to poke through it. Took a little bit of elbow grease on a couple of them, a little bit of force to poke my camera through it, but we were able to get all the way out to the main, so that's good. Looks like we flushed some toilet paper out of there, so that's good. Burn that water. Let's see, I mean, we haven't really seen anything on the way back yet, but I have some resistance right here at 25 feet. That's where the roots have started, and so this is definitely heavy enough to where it should be. It does need an immediate cleaning, and then they should be able to, after they clean it, run a camera through it just to make sure that those spots behind there are not anything. There's no damage. Obviously, we don't see anything, but just to be sure when they clean it, they should be able to run the camera back through it. 25 feet, here's another one right at you can see it's right at the joint again. There's another one at 18 feet. This one's a little lighter. Trying to make sure we see it so you can see how it's real fine, and another one that's still the same thing. It's at the joint. And that's where they get in. I said that packing kind of dry out and shrink up. 25 feet, and this one right here, I've got a lot of resistance. This is a pretty long strip of finger roots. They're small roots, but they build up together. 15 feet. So really, all the roots are in a 10-foot section from 15 to 25 feet on the video. But the line looks good structurally. I don't see any, like the water is escaping, it's functioning well as far as you get the roots out of the way. The roots very easily catch. Another reason not to use wet wipes or anything if it's another section where they can catch on it and cause some issues. But see, we are back to the clean out and out now. So the line looked good structurally. Obviously, again, we're unable to inspect the line underneath the house due to lack of access. For some reason, I always question that, why they put one-way cleanouts on something like this, and then they don't give you access unless you go down directly through the fixtures, which are real small diameter accesses for your sink and everything. So short of pulling a toilet, you'd have to either get on the roof or pull a toilet to get access. And for liability reasons, we don't do that. So but the line itself here looked good structurally. It does need to be cleaned. Like I said, all those roots are about a 10-foot section between 15 feet and 25 feet. But the ones at 15 and 25 are pretty heavy. And it took a little bit of me poking a hole in them to get the camera past them. So I'm going to recommend an initial cleaning to clear the roots thoroughly, and then possibly a yearly treatment, chemical treatment of like Root X or something similar, to kind of as preventative maintenance to try to keep the roots down, and then another inspection after about 5 years or so, to kind of check root growth and see how things are going, and if you may want to adjust the maintenance schedule in either direction. You can do it more frequently or less frequently, and in most cases with something like this, if you have it cleaned well the first time, you may be able to get away with less frequent treatments, chemical treatments. But again, the line looked good structurally, and so just need to get a cleaning and a little bit of future maintenance, which again is very common. I'm sure you talk to the neighbors in this neighborhood and you'll probably find that most of them have dealt with this or are currently dealing with roots in their sewer line. But again, line looks good structurally, so a little bit of maintenance and should be good to go for years. That'll end the inspection at 520 Vineland Trail in Beavercreek, Ohio.